Hi, welcome to the Couch Coven. I'm your host, Teddy.
Hi, I'm your host, Laura. I'm sorry, I'm dropping all of my tarot cards all over my lap, so
Oh no, that's okay. They just have a lot to say.
they do.
Today we're doing casual, okay? We don't have a specific subject to talk about. Both of us have done some independent research on different things. Maybe we have spoken about here or interest us, but everything ties back to mental health, spirituality, healing. So we're going to talk about those things. I guess we're keeping it secret from each other because neither of us have mentioned them, and I'm excited to be surprised. So, as always, we are going to start with a tarot spread. I am shuffling mine. I'm just going to shuffle them a couple times and then take it from the top and the bottom. Take a little ego card and a little shadow card.
I had a couple cards spit out at me, and then I took one from the bottom. So I've got 3 cards that I took for today.
That seems like a good shuffle. I don't know if it's my spirit guides or my OCD saying, shuffle again! But I like what we got. All right, what do you have today?
I have King of Swords, King of Pentacles, and Justice.
Well, I have Two of Wands and the Queen of Coins or Pentacles. My deck it's coins. You want to go into yours first or you want me to start?
Why don't you start? I'm still absorbing. I'm trying to connect these three.
The Two of Swords was from the top of my deck, so I consider that the conscious ego card. And the Queen of Coins was on the bottom, which I attribute to the unconscious shadow side. I didn't have a specific intention or question I asked my deck. I just sort of shuffle and pull in our little circle that we've built. Two of Wands represents starting out on a journey, making plans, honing your passion, tapping into that fire, and then the Queen of Coins as the ending point where it will all pay off, standing on your own right. I don't know how to explain it very eloquently today. I just feel like the Two of Wands is the beginning, making plans, creating plans, looking into your passions, and then at the end of it and where you already are in some timeline or space-time continuum is at the finish line. You can see, like physically see, the manifestations of all your work. You have come into your power and authority.
That's funny because I feel like it definitely connects to my reading as well. King of Swords, King of Pentacles, and Justice. With King of Swords, I get structure, routine, authority, judgment. With King of Pentacles, reaching goals, hard work paying off, having pride in your achievements, which is cool. I mean, we were talking about potentially venturing into a new business, so to speak. That feels very representative of that, in my opinion. From the bottom of the deck, I pulled the Justice card, which is interesting. I get different things from this when it comes up. Here now, I'm picking up that it's like a self-reflection type of judgment thing. Like, okay, I'm on this path. I have this routine. Now I need to hold myself accountable throughout it. I didn't ask a particular question. I just said, what do my spirit guides want me to know today?
I did just look it up because Justice is one of those cards that I also have trouble interpreting. The tarotguide.com says that it can represent karmic justice, consequences, truth, honesty, integrity, cause and effect, which I think is funny because I'm going to be talking about things that have to do with cause and effect. Anything else you would like to say about the cards?
No, but if you want to get right into one of your topic, maybe the cause and effect one.
In my life, I have been trying to find motivation to change my life, to get things done, to adhere to my passions, make plans, be steady in my path, and reach those levels of stability, authority, and that final level of accomplishment, kind of. The epiphany came to me yesterday. I could potentially be using the butterfly effect to my benefit, and that could be something
Ooh.
I could actually harness instead of feeling helpless in manifestation. And I love manifestation. I believe that that's real. I am a very tangible person, and if I don't see something big happen, I don't believe it's real. I like the butterfly effect because it is based in chaos theory. I love chaos. I consider myself a chaos witch, so that speaks to me. And it's about imperceptible, very small things that create exponential change. Things that you can't track, you can't figure out where this is going to go. They're just very little moments and pockets of time and maybe a decision you make that affect your life and other people's lives around you. If you haven't heard of the butterfly effect, You may have heard of the movie. There's multiple movies that use the butterfly effect theory.
There's only one named the butterfly effect.
The common explanation of the butterfly effect is a butterfly flaps its wings on one side of the earth and there's a tsunami on the other side of
Right.
the earth. Not saying that the butterfly created the tsunami. That very small action can create long-term and indescribable effects. The butterfly effect is the layman's term for chaos theory. It is an area of mathematics. I do not understand them. I have seen the formulas. It incorporates something called the Lyapunov instability, a nonlinear system that is very sensitive and dependent on initial conditions, and it measures the rate at which nearby trajectories in phase space separate, which I think is super cool. I only understand part of that, but I am going to do more research into that, maybe for like a later episode, because I think that's really, really cool. They're just small, imperceptible changes causing a chain of events which impacts the environment. It all depends on the input. The input directly affects the output, whether or not the earth or the person is aware of that. And it specifically hinges on unpredictable variables, things that you can't put into a computer and get a result. You don't know what's going to happen because anything could happen at any time, and you don't know how small the input is going to be to get the output. Edward Lorenz was a meteorologist who looked at all of this and also helped apply and translate it into psychological significance. I was thinking about the same thing. If the butterfly effect can affect the outside environment, can it also be a part of the psychological and internal environment of a person? Because I decided to break up my routine the other day, which led to me having a wonderful time out on the town. It led to a domino effect of me wanting to engage with making more plans and bettering myself. Just these very small breaks in my routine have now kind of spiraled, and I don't know what the long-term effects of that are going to be, but I'm excited. It could be anything. The psychological significance of the butterfly effect are, again, very small decisions. The article I read mentioned fleeting emotions, so maybe just a little bit of anger or sadness or a blip of joy can impact you, even if it's something that you don't consciously recognize or it's something that you don't dwell on. Any small moment, experience, reaction could compound, creating a chain reaction resulting in long-term events. Habits and mindset impact this as well, so either that's a negative habit or mindset or a positive habit or mindset. Minuscule changes and shifts are what create this effect and what can help you build on it and use it consciously in your life. Instead of looking at the end goal that you're really trying to achieve, or if there's no specific end goal, you just want to feel better, you want to be healthier, you want to take care of your mental health, little teeny weeny changes, little teeny weeny decisions, even if they aren't conscious, can affect that. And you can also make them consciously without a specific or desired outcome in mind. Maybe it will be bad, maybe it will be good, but it all creates forward movement. That is how you continue to make changes in your life. Just make tiny little different decisions, maybe tiny little different emotional tweaks. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
The butterfly effect boils down to imperceptible decisions or adjustments that seem insignificant, something you may not even remember. That's the main point, you could say, most of the articles I read made about the butterfly effect. It's not something significant. It's not something that you may even notice or remember. It just happens, and then that can create a domino effect. You can look up all of the different formulas. I was looking at them. They don't make any sense to me, personally.
Yeah, I'd be curious to look. I mean, they're not going to make sense to me either, but I'd be curious to look at them. That's really cool. What's interesting, the idea of the butterfly effect is even reflective in the actual changes that we make on our mental health. You know, like changing our neural pathways just takes one minuscule moment after one minuscule moment. And then over time, all of a sudden, that builds up to a huge change. So it's sort of reflective in what we do internally as well.
That's what I was really introspecting about. I've been trying to figure out how to work out more, how to make that accessible to me, motivate myself to work out more. I saw a couple TikToks about isometric exercises. Those
Mm.
isometric exercises focus on core strength and they are easy to do at home. It might
Mm-hmm.
take like 10-15 minutes, really stabilizing for your joints and your muscles in
Mm-hmm.
general. I saw those 2 videos, and then I decided Tuesday night that I wanted to just make myself work out, feel a little bit better. So I did those exercises. I did some physical therapy exercises for my shoulder stability. It took me maybe like half an hour, and then I felt better after it because, the endorphins and the happy chemicals. And then the next day, so Wednesday, I could feel my core. So those muscles, I could feel that they were sore. So I worked them. So it
Mm-hmm.
was a physical reminder of the work that I did. And then
Yeah.
my body felt more stable. Like my shoulder didn't have as much pain, my back didn't have as much pain. So that makes me then want to do those more.
Yeah.
And it was because of one video and then one decision that I made to just do it.
And then one decision after that, and one decision after that.
Because I did that, I didn't want to engage with a ton of junk food. I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to eat things that fueled my body. I think they were corn dogs, but still, you got a lot of food groups in
Still
that
got some
one.
protein in there.
You
Yep.
you got some protein and some carbs. Very small things like that. Maybe you don't even remember. Maybe you don't even notice at the time. It's just it's a snowball. It's a domino effect, and you can use
Yeah.
it positively in your life. You can consciously use it, even if it's not to reach a specific goal. You can perform an action or feel a feeling knowing that it will have an impact on your life. Anyway, that's what I got for the butterfly effect.
Cool. I love that. Thank you. That was great.
You're welcome. I'm excited. What do you have? I want to learn.
I think I'll start with this was related to the matriarchy episode. When I was doing that research, I had read somewhere that elephants worship the moon. I'm sort of debunking this a little bit, so I apologize. That people believe that because there are Sanskrit texts from India describing elephants as sacred beings who engaged in rituals for lunar deities because they would raise their trunks towards the sky on full moons.
Oh, wow.
According to researchers, it's much more likely that elephants are using their noses, their very strong, superpowered noses, to smell the scents on the breeze. That's why they're putting their trunk up to the air. And they happen to do that more often on full moon nights because there are other animals who engage in activities on full moons. And that's what is probably catching that scent on the air is they're smelling what's going on. Other creatures are reacting to the full moon and they are smelling those activities. I love to believe that they are worshiping the moon, but it does make more sense that they're actually smelling the air and trying to figure out what's going on around them. That is according to a Newsbreak article, so take that with a grain of salt. That was just a little thing that I wanted to add on because we had just done that matriarchy episode and I had read that somewhere, so I thought it would be interesting to
That's really fun.
unfortunately debunk that, but
There's still whimsy in it. We need whimsy in our life.
we do. We need whimsy. Do we want to bounce back to you or you want me to do another one?
The other one that I really did more research on was dream analysis. I know you are a dream analyzer, so you're probably not unfamiliar with some of the things that I'm going to talk about. I have been having a lot of weird dreams. All dreams are weird, but these have felt quite a bit more significant than normal. And I just wanted to look into it a little bit more. I had done some dream analysis when I was in like middle school, high school. I used to lose my purse a lot and my teeth used to fall out a lot.
Oh, yeah. I used to have falling out teeth ones. I figured out that that was partially stress and partially me actually grinding my teeth in my sleep.
I both of those are applicable to my life as well. So I wanted to look into dream analysis a little bit more because I know that it's based off of psychoanalysis started by Sigmund Freud, our guy. People, scientists, the smart ones, don't really know what dreams mean or are for. The general consensus seems to be dreams help us process emotions, daily events, help us maybe encode memories, helps the brain kind of figure shit out while your body is shut off, unless you're experiencing sleep paralysis, which I'm so sorry because that shit sucks.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
Modern dream analysis stems from Sigmund Freud. He believed that the ego takes a back seat during dreams, allowing potential repressed memories and significant emotions to tell their own story. Your conscious mind is shut off. It's allowing whatever you've been thinking about unconsciously, gives us a platform to actually speak. There are two different types of content, which is manifest content. What we remember from the dream, it's what we actually see. The weird mall dreams, being in your childhood bedroom, then all of a sudden you're on Mount Everest. And he described this as the distorted wish. If there is a hidden meaning in your dream, if there's some sort of desire or repressed memory that is trying to make itself known, the manifest content is the distortion of that desire or emotion. So it's not super clear. It's a path towards what you are actually feeling and what is actually trying to come up. The latent content is the hidden psychological meaning. So that is the actual wish, desire, emotion, outcome that you want, hidden beneath the layers of the manifest content, what you are actually seeing, which parallels real life because oftentimes we are focused on what we can physically see. We are either projecting or using transference to try and make sense of our internal world, trying to assign meaning in our manifest world. Honestly, to diverge from what we're talking about, I have noticed, not consciously, but there have been moments either today or yesterday and even right now where I'm feeling quite a bit emotional. Like I'm starting to feel a little like watery. I am feeling a bit softer, and I can tell that I don't know if vulnerable is the correct word, but I'm feeling a little like teary and kind of like squishy. With that all being said, I might start crying. So
No, that's okay. Dude, that's yesterday. I am in the same place. Genuinely, the most benign things are making me bawl my eyes out. And yesterday, I didn't stop crying boohoo tears for like 4 hours. And it was just like this cry started from something, and then after that, it was just like, "Oh no, now this makes me cry. Now this makes me cry."
yeah, like the other day when I was just sobbing about women, like I just all of a sudden, like the Artemis 2 really, because they landed, right? They're like
Mm.
back on Earth.
Mhm.
That really, oh no.
Here it comes.
I had to like stay off TikTok for like a solid 24 hours because like every single time, because it was so incredible. And it just, Christina Koch, and I think that's how you pronounce her name.
It is Coke. It is Coke, I believe. Yep. I mean that its German pronunciation is
Oh,
correct.
okay,
So
cool.
as far as I
I
know.
didn't know that was German. Cool. So,
Hmm.
seeing all the videos of her, and then
I think it's German.
seeing all of
It's a German name. I'm
yeah,
sorry. Keep
it's
going.
okay. And then
I know it as a German name. That's all.
I've seen so many videos of like little girls in like little astronaut costumes and stuff like that, like getting up to like watch the landing.
Oh.
And it's so fucking incredible to me. And I've seen so many things on like TikTok being like, listen, if Christina can go to space, I can fucking get my GED. I can go back to school. I
Yeah.
can do this. I can do that. I can take care of myself. And women were just getting together being like, I think that this is partly emotional because of the female aspect of it and the historical aspect of it, but also the fact that it's one of like the most genuinely good and inspiring things and like hopeful things that have happened in fucking years amidst everything that's happening now. Oh, it just gets me.
Did you hear that they named one of those craters on the other side of the moon after a woman too? One of the astronauts' late wives.
Yeah, they said
It's
goodbye to
beautiful.
her as they were leaving.
Yeah.
And I saw Christina took a video while they were in fucking space from, I don't know if it was the capsule or the shuttle or what, but she took a video in space of like outside the window. So it was like we were in fucking space, watching space while they were in space. And it just, that shit is just like, ugh. Anyway. Anyway, so for anybody who's feeling emotional about that, I am right here with you. I am right here with you. Every time I think about it, I break down, not in sadness, but in just in awe. I'm just in
Yeah.
awe. Oh.
That's beautiful. I'm sure Christina Kolk would be honored to hear how much you've been impacted. I mean, I'm sure she's elated by all the impact that she's done so far, and the other astronauts. It's heartwarming in a sense, and like validating that their lead pilot was a Black man.
Yes. Oh my
And
God. Yes.
there's just been, so much horrific things that like Charlie Kirk had said, and the racism, the systemic racism that exists. And yet here we are, a Black man let us be on the moon and accompanied by a woman. And it's just so heartwarming to know that that's, while all that other stuff is going on. See, now I'm starting to cry. Now all that other stuff is going on Earth, obviously, but like that's still happening too. And we're still going in the right direction.
I know there's still hope.
Yeah.
And it just, I'm so sorry. Hazel is like so concerned. Hi, baby. I know. I'm getting through this. I promise. This is
Like they're not bad
They're
tears.
not
It's
bad
okay.
tears. They're good tears. Hi, baby. I love you so much. She also probably wants to go outside, but that's okay. She can wait. Hi, honey. You can't get in. You can't get in my lap right now. I love you.
She's like, we'll see about that.
I know. I love you so much. I love you so much. Aw, my girl dog. Hi, honey. No boys in this house. Anyway, yeah, so I've been feeling very soft, and I definitely, oh my God, Hazel, I definitely believe my aggressive outbursts are, or my penchant towards aggression are really trying to tamp that down. And it's it's my ego, it's my nervous system trying to help. It's a response that is trying to help me. It's not effective and healthy for me, and it's also impacting the people around me. So that is something I needed to hear. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Anyway, dream analysis.
Oh yeah, I forgot what we were talking about.
Dream analysis. I don't know how much of the conversation I'm gonna cut out. But if we're crying about women and hope and the Artemis too. So part of dream analysis, Freud, whatever, is part of is part of psychoanalytic theory. It examines the themes behind dreams. So again, this is all about the unconscious and the conscious mind. So if I say unconscious about 1,000 times, it's because that's what it is. It examines themes. Oh, sorry, I had an open bottle of like nail polish because I'm half painting my nails.
Oh my God. Hetty, you are so type B personality. It's
know.
insane. Sometimes the things you say, I'm like, what?
It stresses me out. And the older that I get and the more healing I do, the more type
Mhm.
B I know that I am. And the more
Yeah.
it stresses me out, the more liberation it gives me. Because when I was younger, because my house was so chaotic and because my
Mhm.
family was so dysfunctional, I tried to be type A so bad.
It was like a coping mechanism to be type. Yeah.
But I was still so type B. I had that whole, oh my God, can someone just like think for me, please, for 2 seconds of my life? But every time someone tried to do
Yeah.
that, I felt so uncomfortable that I had to try and regain control.
And maybe you sympathize with this as well, because I was I find that I am more type A in reality, but I also know that that was a coping mechanism for myself as a kid,
Mhm.
was to just be in control of everything and make sure everything was in order and whatnot.
Yeah.
And when I did try to let somebody else take control, I realized that they were incompetent. And I was just like, fuck it, I'll just do it
You
myself.
are incompetent and you are not thinking about anybody but yourself in this situation. There
Right.
are other people here and they need to be considered because we're all being
Right.
impacted by whether or not we drive into the woods on this random Sunday afternoon and smoke weed. You know what I mean? Because I certainly don't want to do that. But if I don't get in that car, I'm being abandoned in the middle of town. So, like, what do
Right.
I do? Everyone gets upset that I'm bringing the mood down because I don't want to be here, but I'm also like, you guys were literally about to abandon me. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
This makes me realize why I never let anybody else drive. I was one of the first to get my license just because my birthday happened, my 16th, happened to be a few months before anybody else is in high school,
Mhm.
like my friends. So I ended up getting my license first. But once everybody else got their license, I was still the driver. I was like, nope, we're not doing. No,
Yeah,
we're not doing that.
I'm in control of where I am.
Yeah, I am in control or I'm dead. There's no other option.
I know. I will either be asleep in my crypt or I'm behind.
Yeah.
Those things might happen one after the other. Who knows? Depending on how fucking irritating the people in the car are.
Anyway, dream
Dream
interpretations.
interpretation. I don't know where I left off. Anyway,
Yeah.
it Freud believed it could be used to bring up your repressed emotions, desires, anything our conscious mind or the ego didn't want to be acknowledged. Meanings are hidden within symbolism and coded messages from the unconscious. So it's like the unconscious is speaking to us in riddles. That is the latent content of the dream. And then the manifest content is like the riddle that we actually see and what we have to decode. We could probably go into simulation theory as well with this because of the language that Freud used and the way that it's all very like hidden within layers on layers and layers. And we have to find like the symbols and the codes to make sense of it. The latent content or the true meanings of dreams could be quote unquote taboo desires, wishes, or socially unacceptable behaviors or feelings. One of the examples I read in an article was one of Freud's patients that had a dream about not liking somebody or like it was a social interaction that would have been that was it was a social interaction that was normal in that context, like this woman putting up boundaries or something like that. But
Hmm.
what it really was her unconscious was using this other person to represent her sister-in-law, where
Mm.
she wanted to tell her no in some way, and that would have caused her to feel guilt. So her mind instead, her unconscious, presented her sister-in-law as this other person to reach her and give her that message. Her ego wasn't allowing her to really see and make that connection between her feelings of guilt and the social situation that she would have to say no to, because saying no to maybe a family member is seen as socially unacceptable. The last little bit I have about this: dreams focus on one storyline, person, place, or thing. Even if it's jumping around a lot, often the main theme still remains. There's a main storyline. You are just bouncing around to a lot of different places, different circumstances. In order to decode what this dream is trying to tell us, we have to displace the original meaning, manifest content, of a person in a dream to the deeper meaning, which is latent content. Possibly our dream is using a symbol to project our emotional distress into in order to process these emotions without outright triggering us.
Without outright triggering us?
That seems to be the consensus on manifest versus latent content. The woman's unconscious manifesting this situation that she was in with her sister-in-law was transferred onto somebody else in her dream, so that maybe it led her to greater introspection and coming to the conclusion of the true meaning behind the dream without necessarily stirring up those great feelings of guilt, which would potentially mean she represses those feelings. That's what I've found in my own dreams as well with my personal experience. There
Mm.
are, symbols, messages that connect to things I can consciously remember, and maybe things that I
Yeah.
can analyze, like look up the meanings of, or find where it plays into my waking life with introspection that leads to me understanding the deeper meaning. Usually that has to do with some sort of traumatic thing or something that may have happened to me. So a trauma that may have happened to me. If the dream was just like, hey buddy, you want to watch this thing happen to you again? I would have been like, oh no, we're not doing that. We are not doing that, because that's happened to me in dreams.
That's why I asked, because I've had growing up, I mean, to be honest, not so much now in the last several years where I've like actually done a lot of real healing. In childhood and early adulthood, I had crazy night terrors. And so I'm
Yeah, me
like,
too.
wait, so it's supposed to not trigger us, because I was getting triggered every night. Like I didn't want to go to sleep sometimes.
I think it's definitely both.
Yeah, I have a lot of weird symbolism in my dreams too, for sure.
I suffered from night terrors, sleep paralysis. A lot of it was overtly scary. And I have had dreams where it's like a real life situation is happening again. But every time I have a dream like that, it's slightly different. I am more lucid in the dream. I'm not necessarily lucid dreaming, but I have more lucidity as the passenger. I do find that now in my adult life, since I have done more healing and I've worked on myself quite a bit, the overt message overlays the latent meaning of the dream, like the thing that I have to decode. Like that's my starting point, and then I have to look
Mm-hmm.
at all the rest of the elements of the dream and figure out like where it's leading me. That definitely happened
Yeah.
in my dreams as a child and as an adolescent. They were scarier though. They were a lot scarier because I was in an unsafe environment.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I'm in a safe environment, I feel like those little roots, nuggets of my unconscious and what my shadow is actually trying to tell me are able to come up. I'm able to kind of dig into those a little bit more because those root causes are not as immediately triggering, whereas before
Right. Or
or
threatening.
threatening, whereas before it was very overt threats in my night terrors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
I had to deal with those right now. There was no way I could get to the root of what it was.
Yeah, dude, one of mine was crazy. Like it's thinking back to it is crazy. It was so horrifying. Like I woke up and I didn't know it was real. I woke up sobbing. But one of the things that happened in my dream is I walked into this old hospital room and there was
Ew.
a like really old lady in the bed and she was possessed. And the nurse was like, "You have to help her." And I'm like, "That's your job." But anyway, it's a dream, you know? So I'm like leaning over the bed looking at this lady, this like possessed old woman. She like looks past me. So I look over my shoulder and behind me on the walls and the ceilings in blood is written, "You're next."
Ah!
And then I turn back around to her and her mouth opens inhumanly wide and she takes a huge bite out of my neck and like attacks me. Anyways, I woke up. It was so overt, literally, "You're next." And it was like this possessed old lady. I realized that it was my conditioning. It was like my
Yeah.
childhood conditioning. Like it was like, I'm going to end up like all the older generations in my family, like
Oh,
super mentally
wow.
unhealthy because I'm not helping myself. I'm not getting better.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wild. And now my dreams aren't like that anymore. Now that I got the message.
I used to have dreams of demonic beings fighting each other and like coming for me
Mm.
and then looking in a mirror or a window and like looking at myself in the eyeballs and like trying to scream
Mm.
and nothing coming out. That's how I would wake myself up. Which is so horrifying when you're like trapped in a dream and you are
Mhm.
trying to wake yourself up and the only
Oh
the only
yeah.
way to do it is do like zombie moans and be like, "Ugh." It's like a physical.
And like thrashing. I'm like thrashing. Yeah.
I was gonna say I didn't even thrash. I mean, like my arm or something would like move because I realized it was so numb. But it was only after starting to speak and coming to like slightly more consciousness where I would realize both my fucking hands were completely numb and I was like detached from my body because it would feel so foreign and it would scare me because I would still be in the mindset of the dream and in that fight or flight and I would be so scared because there's just this like foreign thing in my bed and there's some sort of sensation in my hand and my arm, but it's so fucking numb and I would be afraid that I like sort of died.
Yeah.
I don't luckily have those anymore.
Me either. It's crazy what healing does.
I have had the experience lately where I do feel like my dreams and my awake life are sort of bleeding into each other a little bit more, where
Mhm.
I'll sort of
Yeah.
like wake up, but I'm not quite sure if I'm awake quite yet. I feel
Yeah.
disoriented. It's not necessarily like a bad thing. Like I wake up and I'm like, okay, I'm in real life. I'm trying not to like let myself go into psychosis. That's what I got on dreams. They're really crazy. They're really wild. Sometimes it is just your brain processing the day and trying to encode
Mhm.
memories and trying to chill. There's a lot of different theories about what happens when we dream, if we are going anywhere. You're allowed to believe what you
Yeah.
want to believe. I personally think dreams do contain symbolism and it can be psychic, metaphysical, or the inherent thoughts and unconscious things that we are not acknowledging throughout the day because our ego has taken the front seat. It's another way our brain communicates with us.
There are people who think that when we dream, we're actually going to another world. We're going to the same dream world all the time. And that's why you can like run into other people in dreams. I saw a Reddit story where somebody said that they saw their coworker in a dream and the coworker was like, they like talked to him. They're like, "Hey, what are you doing in my dream?" And the coworker was like, "This is my dream." It's interesting because I do feel like I go to the same place a lot of the time in my dreams. Like I go back to a a world that feels like I'm going to the same place.
Mm.
Even so much as that I recognize the city, I recognize the
Whoa.
terrain around between dreams.
Uh-huh.
The city that I end up in a lot that is like New Orleans, if New Orleans was in Utah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know how to explain it. It's like New Orleans, but in like a desert scape. I have like a lot of mall world dreams and stuff
Mhm.
like that, where I don't often dream about the same establishment, like the same mall thing that I'm in, but there's always the same energy in each one. You know what I mean? Sort of liminal space feeling. Yeah.
Some dreams feel very liminal, and then other dreams are like, we can't go from Virginia to California in 15 minutes, and holy fucking shit, there's a tornado, and I have a newborn baby. What is happening? That is a
Yeah.
literal dream
Yeah.
that I had. Mostly based on a movie that I watched the night before.
That's funny. I find that a lot of my mall worlds places, they're like malls, but also mixed with like luxury ships, like yachts. And I think that is so I grew up as a Navy brat, so I've been around Navy ships a lot. My dad, because he just loved boats, he had a boat when I was a kid, like a little speedboat that we would take out on the Potomac. He also would get magazines for luxury yachts, like a yacht club magazine.
Uh-huh.
I think it was like sort of a manifestation type thing
Mhm.
for him where he was like, one day I'll be the captain of my own ship. I would leaf through those magazines every time he got one when I was a kid because I was just so enamored with how those boats look, like those luxury yachts look.
They look so cozy.
I feel like all of those images from my childhood now come out in my dreams as these places. One of the mall world places I was on like a cruise ship.
Is it because you're trying to be the captain of your own life?
I've always had this strange connection with the ocean, with ships, being a captain, with pirates.
Yeah, you told me you drowned in a past life.
Yeah, I drowned in a past life. I was wearing a naval uniform or what felt like a naval uniform when I drowned. When I had that vision, I had that vision of my past death.
Mm-hmm.
I was at a museum in DC and I had touched this propeller on the wall of this old ship. And so I did research on what I thought was that ship because at the time I didn't have the wherewithal to like remember the name on the display. It was actually probably a couple years later I like thought about it and I was like, I need to see if I can find the exhibit information on that propeller and see if I can find what ship it is. So I did research on the ship that I thought it was, whose propeller I touched. There were no deaths. That ship did go down in the Great Lakes, not in the ocean. There were no deaths. And so I was like,
Oh.
I definitely died. So maybe that wasn't the boat that wasn't the propeller that I touched. So I went back to the museum. It was 14 when it happened, and I was 19 when I went back to the museum. So it was 5 years later. And I touched the propeller. It's oddly enough now was behind a barrier. Before you could walk right up to it.
Whoa.
And now it was behind a barrier. I had to like do it when no security guards were looking and like
Yeah.
reach over the barrier to touch this. And the crazy thing about it is nothing happened. The touch was so wildly different. The first time I touched it, when I got the vision, it was ice cold to the touch, as if it was the temperature that it was in the water. What was happening is it was spinning and it was actively going, propelling the ship, and it was creating all this pressure, preventing me from reaching the surface, which actually has a name. There's like a name for that pressure that it causes, and people have been known to drown that way. And that's exactly what happened. I did not jump. I was pushed off of this boat as it was going off the stern of the ship and immediately plunged into the water, and the pressure of this propeller wouldn't let me reach the surface, and I drowned. And I was in a man's body. I was in what felt like a sailor's uniform. So I've always had this weird connection and never been able to attribute anything to it other than that vision and the fact that I grew up as a Navy brat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know how we got on that.
Dreams. What happened when you were 19? You touched it and it was what, like warm, normal metal?
It was warm. It was like it was sitting in the museum at like 78 degrees or whatever. And it was like such a stark difference that it was just like, you don't have this ability anymore. Like that was a one-time thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And it was just so bizarre.
I don't know if you did any research in this or if it said anything in your research, but I would be interested to see if that propeller was potentially salvaged and put on a different ship.
I was thinking that. I don't think it was salvaged because I did look that up to see if any parts were salvaged after the fact. I think it was a new construction boat, so I don't think that propeller would have been used beforehand. However, the metal could have been melted down from a different propeller beforehand. Unfortunately, that information is probably lost to time, I'd imagine. That did cross my mind that it was the metal itself was holding that energy, not the propeller necessarily. So anyway, nothing like that has ever happened to me since. I have definitely received prophecies and like prophetic things in my dreams.
Same.
But never in my waking life have I received a vision like that ever again. Like I said, I receive images when I meditate, but that's when my eyes are closed and I'm like dropping into this space where I'm like being more receptive. This shit happened at a busy museum on a weekend in DC when I was 14, completely unprompted. So anyway, my mom had suggested at one point that I like go see a hypnotist to see if I can do some like past life regression, which I'd be open to doing. I just haven't committed to it yet.
Let's both do it.
Yeah, we should.
I really want to get hypnotized and do stuff like that, but then it makes me think of what was the name of that movie? The one where it like the Jordan Peele one, the white people are like implanting
Get Out.
Get Out. Thank you. Thank you. I was like,
Yeah.
run away. Keep going. Thinking about hypnotism makes me think of that movie, and that like freaks me out a little bit. So maybe we can't go to like a white hypnotist. Maybe they got to be someone like
No.
native or like
Yeah,
I'm gonna discriminate.
Yeah, I'd much rather go to somebody honestly in New Orleans, honestly, like somebody down there.
Manifesting, we go on a trip to New Orleans, we fucking level up our shit, okay?
Yeah.
And we move into the woods, and I have my little cabin with all my herbs and shit, and people come there, and I yell at them all the time. And then people go to you, and they're like, Teddy was mean to me.
Cool. Yeah, I like that idea.
So we'll see how we can engage with the butterfly effect and the minuscule decisions that we make on a day-to-day basis in order to affect that and bring that change, exponential change, and continue using our dreams to save our spirit guides. Want to tell us anything else? Okay. You got a fact for me? I want to hear your facts.
I think it's kind of a fun one. Tina Turner, the queen, used a Buddhist mantra, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo,
Ooh.
chanting it for several hours a day. She started this in 1973 or 1974. She has been interviewed multiple times about how positively her life changed just by incorporating this chant into her life. I don't know if she ever actually attributed this to chanting, but it's believed that she gained what she needed to be able to leave her abusive husband. If you don't know, Ike Turner was like crazy abusive, beat the hell out of her, mouth full of blood type stuff, really horribly abusive to her. And so she started doing this chanting in like 1973, 1974. By 1976, she had filed for divorce from her husband. Over that time, she gained the strength to get herself out. And she said her life just changed drastically positively from that point forward, which is really cool because I also started using this chant when I was living in Virginia. And here I am, out of a relationship in a completely different part of my life now. I still use that chant sometimes when I want to calm my energy and channel motivation or manifestation. The chant itself means devotion to the mystic dharma of the Lotus Flower Sutra, or homage to the sublime dharma of the Lotus Sutra. It's essentially just a prayer to the universe being like, thank you and I welcome blessings. Like that's how I interpret it. I'm devoted to the universe, and in that I will blossom. I highly recommend it. It's a sacred Japanese phrase that's chanted within all forms of Nichiren Buddhism. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I couldn't find a pronunciation for it. It's Nichiren. It's a part of a facet of Buddhism. Highly recommend using the Nam Myoho Renge Kyo chant and doing some more research on it if that interests you. I highly recommend it. It changed Tina Turner's life and it changed my life. Do you have anything else for me? Any other fun stuff?
I was looking into internalized misogyny because of a comment somebody made the other night. This woman just mentioned how dating a woman for the first time would make you a misogynist, and I thought that was very interesting, and so I wanted to look into internalized misogyny a little bit more. I don't think we've had a specific episode about misogyny, and I think we've kind of mentioned it here and there. So I'm going to read off my notes. I didn't type these up, so I'm reading my handwriting. Good luck to me. Internalized misogyny is misogyny an individual turns in on themselves. So, misogyny is the systemic hatred of women. The properties of misogyny are underlying hatred or disgust of women, prejudice against women, thinking that they are less than, oppressing them. They're just always going to be second, third, fourth class citizens, and they're not seen honestly as human beings. If you really read up on misogyny, it's not just like, oh, women are gross. It's true and real disgust of women. If you've ever like come in contact with something like nasty in the sink when you're washing dishes and you just feel this like full body disgust, that's kind of how I think of misogyny, a full body reaction of just disgust and hatred, and it hurts everybody. So internalized misogyny is subconscious, you could say. A lot of women are misogynistic. Internalized misogyny is when you turn that hatred on yourself, that disgust on yourself. You act in prejudice against yourself, and then being a misogynist is spreading that to and applying that to all of the other women or feminine or effeminate people in your life. Misogyny doesn't just affect cis women. It would seem maybe like the cis heterosexual men are not being affected by misogyny, but they absolutely are, because if they display anything that is considered feminine, effeminate, sensitive, they are immediately met with that disgust, because anything that is not quote unquote like alpha male-esque is seen as disgusting.
Yeah, and in the same vein, things that are inherently feminine that are aggressive are not seen as feminine. They can look at women with disgust when they appear too masculine, even if they're still in nature what would be considered a feminine trait.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I did not put anything about racism in my research. I didn't get that deep into it, but that is 100% based in racism and the hatred and demonization of Black women. Side note, I would love to do an episode on that, and especially do research into masculine presenting Black lesbians. There's a lot of misogyny and heteronormativity expected of masculine lesbians and butches and studs. So that in and of itself is a complete other topic that I would absolutely love to cover, because I think it especially in the context of the queer community and queer history,
hmm
there's no one that upholds the backbone more than queer people of color. They are the reason that we're still here. I think people of color are
Yeah.
the reason that anything is still here, to be honest. Um,
Yeah.
anyway, so internalized misogyny, it's a subconscious projection of the disgust and hatred and prejudice of women internally towards a woman's self. Sexism is everywhere. Sexism and misogyny aren't necessarily the same thing, but they go hand in hand, in my opinion. We're constantly bombarded with the degradation of women, sometimes subtly, sometimes overtly. So it's very difficult to escape that culture, and it just becomes subconscious. It gets in there whether or not we want it to. So we constantly have to be identifying it and being aware of it and talking about it, keeping up the conversation, acknowledging it when you see it, whether that be in media or real life. Internalized misogyny is societal conditioning. It's a systemic hatred of women. It's used to discredit and demean women. So, again, second, third, fourth class citizens. It manifests as hatred towards a woman's self. Projecting that outward is just blatant misogyny. Yeah, that's kind of all my notes. There was just a comment that somebody made in a conversation the other night. This was a woman who was talking about having dated a woman and understanding where the incels were coming from, because that spoke to a lot of misogyny and probably internalized misogyny that needs to be looked at. And again, I didn't know her, so I don't feel like it was my place to really go into that. I did,
hmm
make sure that she understood the definition of misogyny, so the systemic hatred of women. I just started thinking about internalized misogyny because I've done a lot of deconstruction work on misogyny and internalized misogyny, which also
hmm
I feel like goes hand in hand with my internalized homophobia and my gender struggles and my gender identity.
hmm
So I forget that people outside of my little bubble and our little circle don't necessarily have those same experiences of deconstruction. I'm holding space, so I hold space for people like that because it is something that is incredibly rampant. We cannot escape it. And if you're not conscious of it, if it's not something you are willing to confront, especially if you are a white cis woman, you seemingly have protection from misogyny and privilege if you go along with it.
It's the same way that prisoners have protection in prison.
Prisoners have protection in prison because they're in prison, but they don't really have protection because they're in prison because they said, oh, you committed a
Right.
crime. Like I said, I'm holding space for people like that. I hold space for people like that, especially women and people who were on the receiving end of blatant misogyny from other men, if they were raised in circles where they were presenting as masculine or something like that. I just felt like it was important to kind of talk about that a little bit, especially with the dream analysis and the butterfly effect, because I think that even just thinking about internalized misogyny and even just maybe having that definition in your brain can create change, can create some sort of effect, even if it's not something that happens right away, even if it's not something that seemingly makes a huge impact. I think it's important. It could even be seen as subliminal, you could say. That's what I got. Those were kind of the things I wanted to go into. Yeah.
I have two more little facts that don't not a whole lot of conversation I imagine will come from these, but they're interesting. One of these you probably already know, that tarot cards were not originally designed for divination, that it was a card game developed in the 1500s. And then 250 years later, they were like, "Oh, I guess we could use these for spiritual practice." So that's cool. I had heard that, but I heard it in a movie once and I was like, huh, I wonder how much truth there is to that. The other interesting fact that I thought was super cool, gym and health club memberships among people under the age of 18 have increased 187% since 1987. And I think that's so incredible because especially when I was in high school, there was so much negativity from older generations around technology and kids, and them being like, oh, you guys don't do anything anymore. Like, you just have technology surrounding you, video games all the time. Like, you guys don't have hobbies. You don't go outside anymore, blah, blah, blah. And to know that, like, in the time that technology has been exploding in the 90s and 2000s and until today, there are more kids doing physical fitness stuff, like almost 200% more kids doing this stuff now than they were in the 80s.
Damn.
So I just think that's really cool, that
Yeah.
there are so many kids who, and I know a lot of kids end up in those places because their parents are forcing them into it. I get that. There's a lot of kids like that. But I do think it's really cool overall that there are so many kids who are still being active, still having hobbies outside of technology and stuff like that. And to show that increase in that time is really cool, that technology does not have the stronghold over people society acts like it does. That was a study according to the Health and Fitness Association from 2025.
That's really cool. I love that because third spaces have all but disappeared. There's nowhere for
Yeah.
kids to hang out. It's either loitering or you have to pay to be somewhere. And so I love the idea that going to the gym or having a gym membership helps you be a part of a community, or even if you don't have a group of people that you go to the gym with or connect with over that, it gives you a space to go to be around people. You can exist for hours there if you want to. And it also, yeah, there's physical benefits to it. You're moving your body. Anyway, I think that's really cool. Although it costs money to go to a gym, it's still, there's discounts and there's other stuff.
There's community centers that have gyms that are a lot less expensive.
Or if you're just a part of your rec center, there are gyms and you can meet a whole bunch of different walks of life, and it's hopefully a safe space where these young people can hang out. I think that's really, really awesome.
Side note, I got that piece of information from the personal trainer course that I'm going through right now, and I wrote that one down last night because I just thought it was really cool. But what's really cool about it is that the course starts off acknowledging this is psychological. The whole first module is about like how to understand the psychological aspects of what causes people not to want to work out, what causes them to lose motivation, how to gain motivation, how to understand the needs of your body mentally and stuff like that, and like how to overcome mental aspects. And it's just really cool to see the psychological aspect of it so integrated into something that's like a very physical thing as personal training. So I thought that was really cool, and I thought you would like that information as well.
I love that. Thank you for sharing.
That's all I got.
Yeah, that's everything I have. My tummy, as I let that out, my tummy did like a grumble at the same time, but it was the same length
Mm.
and kind of the same vibration.
Whoa. Weird.
Um, I don't know if I have like a shout out or anything. I'm gonna shout out myself for letting myself cry about the Artemis 2.
Yeah. Letting yourself feel your emotions.
Letting myself feel my emotions, and also proud of myself for not shutting down when you called me out for needing to look at my coping mechanisms.
I'm really proud of you for that too. Anytime I say stuff like that, it's because I love you and I care about you and I want you to be
I
aware.
know, and that's why I know. um,
I Yeah, I think you're incredible and I think you're wonderful and I can see how much you've grown. And I'm really proud of you.
okay, I'm crying again. So do you want to do like our blessing or our send off?
Sure. Yeah. Let's see. I'm going to send off with the blessing that everybody goes with the flow and holds space for themselves and each other. This was a very directionless episode. And it was nice to just kind of exist and not have that direction just kind of float around and bounce
Yeah.
around and hold space for each other. So, yeah, move forward in your life, going with the flow while also making sure there's room for everyone around you.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I love that. I love you. And I love you, Laura, and I love you, listeners. And I guess we'll catch you in the next one. We might have a theme.
Yeah.
We might not. I don't know. We're both in interesting mental places. So
Yeah, we'll see. We'll figure it out.
if there's any random themes or facts or anything you want,
Yeah, topics you guys want to hear about, let us know.
please let me know. Let us know, because I could talk ad nauseum about a lot of different things. But I think it's fun when people ask to hear things, 'cause I'd like to explore different perspectives. Anyway, have a good day.
I love you, Teddy. I love you, couch potatoes, and we'll see you guys later.
Okay, bye.
Bye.